If I'm being honest, I was very nervous about going to Guatemala and was not excited about going. I was originally going to St. Lucia because I wanted a tropical vacation. I hadn't had a break from school because of studying from my MCAT, and Guatemala didn't sound like a vacation. I've been told or noticed all my life that I lack a lot of compassion and empathy for others, and I have never really liked traveling. I don't think Guatemala really changed my empathy or compassion, but it did give me a new perspective. Being able to see their values in community and making everyone feel welcomed was so heartwarming and eye opening. I had a hard time before college finding people to fit in with, and the fact that everyone in Guatemala made you feel like family was astonishing to me. When we landed in Guatemala, I was still very intimidated by the fast moving pace in Guatemala City, and I really noticed everyone speaking Spanish very quickly. The day we traveled to Guatemala is really a blur because of sleeping, but I loved eating dinner at Katuk and definitely wanted to go back for pork chops and mushroom sauce. I loved every day after that until we had to leave. I loved waking up every morning and feeling exhausted by 10 o'clock and going to bed. I had no problem sleeping like I normally do in the US because I was too tired to worry about anything. Living with Angelica was such a wonderful experience. I'm normally the one that cooks for my family, so having someone to cook every meal for me was a blessing. I will never eat another pancake again because her pancakes were so amazing. No other pancakes could ever live up to them. The fact that Jamie was in our house was nice because I'm also a very picky eater, so the meals were never too crazy. I feel like Angelica really was making an effort to please us. I asked for butter on the first night, and then she always put butter at my spot on the table. She even made macaroni and cheese with hot dogs, which I knew was not a normal Guatemalan dish. I feel like staying with people and not just at a hotel really made the experience better because it always felt like I had a place to go that was welcoming. There was only one meal that I didn't like, but I was very surprised when I tried a lot of other things that I actually liked them. The only thing I didn't like that she made for us was a fried vegetable pocket. Everything else she made was phenomenal, from the chicken lo mein to the pork stir fry. I would love to go back and stay with her once I've learned more Spanish so I could tell her how much I appreciated her. Hiking every day was a little crazy for me. My dad has been taking me geocaching since I was little, and it made me hate hiking. He would never plan any of our hikes, and then we would be hiking a crazy number of miles, which was so irritating to me because I like having a plan. I was nervous about all the hiking because I haven't done anything super physical since I quit softball last year. The first day hiking to the ceramic shop definitely made me a bit sore the next day, but I was really proud of myself for making it. The ceramic shop is one of the few things that I wouldn't have to go back to visit. Pottery and ceramics aren't really my thing, and still really isn't. I appreciate the intricate handiwork that the women put into every piece, but there was so much more I would have rather explored instead. The experience of shopping in Guatemala was very different. The actual bargaining wasn't bad, but I didn't enjoy having to negotiate. I would have always feel bad for offering a low amount and eventually would meet them halfway. It amazed me how I could communicate with them in Spanish, though after I hadn't spoken it in a long time. I was always amazed at how well Jamie negotiated and how she always stuck to her guns. I just would always feel too bad and cave in to actually meeting people in the middle. I didn't enjoy people coming up to us whenever we were in La Plapa or when we were eating. I thought that they were really pushing and invaded my privacy. That was the only part of Guatemalan culture that I didn't 100% fall in love with. I got things that were sturdy and beautiful that I just wouldn't have found in the United States. I enjoyed being able to help the community by painting the school, even with really watery paint. Community service is very important to me, but I'm very picky about giving my time to certain causes. I love giving my time back to children and older people because they seem like the most worthy in my mind. I really wish we would have gotten a chance to play with the kids, but I'm glad we did something that helped them. I did find it crazy that we drove through a lot of the towns and the school was in a very rural area. The religion in Guatemala is very interesting. I find religion to be a complex thing and it's very intricate and different everywhere you go. I would love to go back and visit different church services to see the different ways they practice in different cities. I'm not very religious because I think it can be interpreted in so many different ways from church to church. Personally, I like to practice by myself, but I feel like if I stayed in Guatemala, I would practice more socially because they make you feel included, and I'm assuming that would go for the church as well. I loved the church in Gregorio's town the most because it seemed the most accepting of the Mayan religion as well as the Catholic religion. The video I watched before going to Guatemala was about religion and how when foreign monks came in, they burned all the Mayan religious writings for being satanic. I thought this was crazy because they weren't even the native people. Even if their religion was satanic, it's their religion, and I don't believe that you should criticize other people's religion if it doesn't affect you. The Mayan caves were a thing of its own, and they caught my interest. I physically couldn't stay in there for more than a couple of seconds because I couldn't breathe, but the families would stay in there for hours. I'm curious to how their bodies physically adapt to be able to withstand the heat and smoke while not physically hurting them. It really surprised me that there was so much trash around such a sacred monument for the people because the place seemed special to these people, but there was a lot of litter everywhere. I liked the ritual for deaths and how serious deaths were taken, but in their lives was celebrated with such colorful cemeteries. The family having time to mourn in silence really touched my heart because personally I like to be left alone to grieve and get over it before people start trying to console me. I do think the chicken thing is a little strange for me to understand that's signifying a person's soul, but I respect that that is how they grieve. My favorite activity was definitely kayaking. I love everything about the water and how calming it is to be on the lake. Carlos told me about a trip where you kayak every day and stop at a new town each day and explore. I'd love to explore Guatemala in that way and bring my father with me before he gets sicker because I think that it would be a lifetime experience. I loved hearing the history of the lake and how it had all of its own water species, but then the U.S. ruined yet another thing in Guatemala without knowing it by dropping touristy fish in there. Hearing how the U.S. intervened in the Guatemalan Civil War really broke my heart. I felt like the U.S. jumps into a lot of things that they really shouldn't and messes with it because it's not their problem. The tombstones for children shattered my heart because there was no way they should have been killed as rebels. The trip to Guatemala made me realize that I loved traveling. I still hate planes, but this experience was worth all the plane rides. I didn't think I was the type of girl who would thrive in a third world country, but I loved every minute of it. I did miss my luxuries, so I wouldn't move to Guatemala, but I would definitely go back because the experience of a different culture really is life-changing.
Oh! All right, Turs. Bro, which is why my butt is sitting right here. I have no else on it. She hasn't been able to do anything. Oh! Only will. Woo! All right, Jonathan.